Is your old guardian made of stone? Hey, it's Brainmuffin back with another beer review. And so I broke into my cellar and found an old gem. Now, one of these things that, I used to do this quite a bit with stone beers and several others. I've really got out of the habit and I really need to get back to it. So up today we have a barley wine. Now, barley wine is usually a very hoppy, very malty beer. Part of why they call it a wine is you're supposed to store it, usually 10 or more percent. This one I think is around 10%, 11.1. The other thing with barley wine is usually what happens is they follow the same recipe. So they put the same amount of hops in, same type, same amount of barley, and they just go with what they get. And so it'll vary quite often year to year how much IBUs and how much alcohol, how good was their mash, how good, especially on the hop side, the alphas will go up and down, and they don't adjust. So if whatever the recipe, let's say if you're a home brewer, you're doing 5 gallons, you're going to do 2 ounces of hop pellets or something, and you follow that same recipe, no matter what happens, similar to a wine, where some wines are blends and things stay consistent, but the ones that they tend to put dates on and say this is this year's whatever. However the grapes come in is how they come in. Whatever the alcohol is what it is. But they follow the same recipe. So they put so many pounds of grapes in. Similar idea with a barley wine. It's not adjusted. And Stone does this every year. This is limited early 2010. So I've had this downstairs for a bit over 7 years, and we'll see how well it's aged. I haven't had one of these in quite a while. I really liked it new. I gave it a 4.75 on Untapped. And, well, I guess not new, because I don't know if I was using Untapped 7 years ago. But, so you can cellar these. Again, you want to keep them in the cold, in the cool, in the dark. 55 degrees is the best. Man, I can smell it already. Oh, my goodness. So what will happen over time is these will get maltier and maltier. They'll actually start to taste more like an old ale, sometimes known as an old stock ale. But this one, you want to keep it in the dark, and these will keep for years depending on how much alcohol they have. You get a 15-16%er and you keep it in ideal conditions, you could probably have it aged for at least 10 years. A lot of it depends on how much hops is in there to begin with. These tend to be fairly hoppy. Now Bigfoot, which is a barley wine from, I think it's Sierra Nevada, it has a huge hop bill, and man, I don't like it until it's aged at least 2 or 3 years. But this, it's 7 years. This glass is a little on the green side. I needed to get some bigger glassware out to get this big beer in. Beautiful head on the pour. Oh, and it is like a malt bomb. So the hops are pretty much gone by now. Oh man, could really taste the alcohol. There's some hot bitterness still in the back end. Shows up really late, but it is definitely pronounced. That is, whew. Now barley wines are not for everyone. They're not only big beers, but they're huge flavors. Some people just don't like them. That's fine. But that's like I said, they tend to be almost like an old stock ale when they've aged a bit. Man, that is really bitter. The bitterness just keeps building. But there's no hops on the aroma. No hops noticeable until real late in the back of the mouth with the bitterness. So these are definitely beers to have with friends, sitting around, share, enjoy. They're one thing cold. This one's been sitting out for about 20 minutes, so it's had time to warm up. It's had time for the malts to open, which is probably why I'm getting a lot of malt on the nose. Great, very thick head. It's going to stay with the glass. So have these with cheese and crackers and little things. Maybe a fondue pot, I don't know. But this is definitely a sitting around beer, enjoying with friends. If you have one, this is 22 ounces at 11.1%. That's pretty high. So you may not be doing much the rest of the day if you have the whole one by yourself. But what's really interesting is there's not a lot of malt complexity, but there are hints of some fruit flavors, a little hints of raisin, and maybe persimmon in there, just a kind of hint, just very, very light. But yeah, the bitterness shows up pretty late. There's a nice alcohol burn that lingers and stays there, even though I've been taking very small sips. But Stone does a very good job, I think, with their barley wine, because what I like about it is that you can enjoy it new. Now new, it's going to be a bit more more yellowish color. Now, like I said, this glass has a slight green tint to it. Not much, but it does have some. You can see in the bottom, because it's a Coca-Cola glass. It's supposed to look like a Coca-Cola bottle. I think it is glass. I don't know if, well, it might be plastic actually. There's a seam. So it's two halves put together, so I don't know. But so it gives it a little bit darker tint than it should, but this will age. It will get darker with age to an extent. And again, what you want to do with these, if you really want to do this right, and I do have some other versions of this that I'm going to be bringing out as we get closer to 100. I haven't figured out exactly what I want my 100th beer review to be. But you will notice, and this is like the IPA, the Dogfish Head 120 IPA is the same way. It'll be really bright colored, and it'll get darker as time goes on. This is a bit, it's not a really lighter colored beer. It's more of a kind of a golden brown, and it turns a bit more of a golden red, which is it is, and it'll get a little bit darker in this. But this has been 7 years, so really wish I had a brand new one, and I could, you know, from early 2017 to compare. But maybe that's what I'll do is I'll get some of the newer ones. I've got some other stuff that aged, but this is still very good. It's very drinkable, but my goodness, it is a sipping beer. This is not a guzzler. I'm going to stay with my 4.75. Ages very nicely. I wish I could had a cooler place to age them. Now, when you age these, please age them upright, even if you have a cork. Because of the CO2, it can kind of push its way out, and if this thing you let go, you're going to end up with it all over the place. Plus, you want many of these have bottle conditioning, and you want the yeast in the bottom, and that's one of the problems with a wine refrigerator that's kind of angled down, because it's a wine. You can want to keep that cork wet, and if you have one of these, if you have something with a cork, every once in a while you want to kind of turn them upside down, keep that cork wet, like, you know, once a month or something. But other than that, you want to leave them upright, or you'll end up with, because once the gas gets through the cork, it's done. It'll pop that, it'll leak, and you'll be done. So, but again, 55 degrees is the optimum temperature to cellar. I don't know, sometimes Stone puts it on their bottles. Yep, so age or cellar temperature, so 55 degrees, 13 degrees Celsius. Or below. So, you know, if you have a refrigerator, I mean, it will age in a refrigerator, it'll just take longer. So again, you want it in the dark and cool, and that's how you age beer. This is still very good. I know some people, it's an odd concept, but it is still very good. It's excellent. All right, have you had an Old Guardian? Have you aged some? What are your thoughts on aging these? Do you like it? Do you not like it? This would go well with some cheese too. Let me know in comments below. Thanks for clicking like. Thanks for sharing. Follow on Twitter. Brainmuffin. I'll put the link below. And we will see you next time. Bye.